what we discussed in the last class. If you remember, we started our discussion with something called as variables, right? 1 second. We started our discussion with something called as variables. We clearly discussed what are variables, why we need variables, right? How to define a variable. We need to define a variable. The syntax for defining a variable is variable, variable name, variable name, curly braces, then description, then default value, right? Then this is the syntax. This is how you are defining your variable. And this block can hold only one value at a time, correct? So this can hold only one value at a time. Now, what is my requirement? If one variable, now I want one variable to hold multiple values. Without repeating the code, I wanted to use only one variable to hold multiple values. Right? So in that case, we have two different variables. One is list and second one is something called as map, right? What is list? List can hold multiple values in itself, and this can be created using a square brackets, and each value one, and it will be holding multiple values, correct? And how to access these values? Using its index numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, something like that, correct? So what is map? Map is also used to hold multiple values, but how? Using something called as key value pair concept. Key is nothing but whatever the name that you wanted to provide and a value associated with it. Ubuntu AMI ID is this one. So how will you refer this? Whenever in list, you will be using a index number, but in map, you need to use this key value, key name. This name you need to use, right? So this is the advantage of using list and map, which can hold multiple values, and you can define only one variable name, and using which you can able to store multiple values, right? So this is what we discussed in the last class, correct? So now, if you had practiced, you'll observe one thing. What is that? See, list and map. These are used to like store values. Everything is fine. Now, essentially what you're doing, let's just assume here is your Terraform. Let me clear this. See, here is your Terraform is installed into this machine, right? You'll create this list or map variable. What this contains? This contains some values, essentially. Some values you are providing some variable name, using which variable name you are providing some values, correct? So to whom you are providing these values? You're providing these values to your Terraform core. You are providing these values to the Terraform core. So Terraform core will make use of these variables and create the infrastructure in AWS, correct? Just to repeat, list and map are the variables which are storing some values. These values you are giving it to Terraform core. So the Terraform core will make use of these values while creating this infrastructure, right? So if you wanted to provide, or just I'm deleting, if you wanted to provide some values, give some input, or if you want to provide some values to the Terraform core or to the Terraform, then what you're using? You're using list and map. Okay. So now, if you wanted to take out, if you want to take out some values, from the Terraform. Please remember, if you wanted to give the values to your Terraform core, then you're using list and map. If you want to take out some values, take out some values from the Terraform, just remember what is that and everything we'll discuss. Just to take out a value from the Terraform, you are using some other variable known as output variable. This is the concept I'm trying to explain. If you want to provide the values while creating the infrastructure, then use list and map. If you wanted to take out a value from the Terraform, then what do you need to use? You need to use something called as output variable. Okay. So what output variable will do? First point, it helps you to get some values from the Terraform core. What are those values? It might be your public IP address from the EC2 instance. It might be a private IP, whatever. It might be your DNS name. Once the infrastructure is created, now I wanted to know what is the IP address of that machine. So it will create the infrastructure first using the list and map and variables, and using this output variable, it will print your IP address or whatever the attribute you want onto your screen. It will print this value. This is the advantage. Okay. What it will do? It will print those values in your screen or in your Terraform server. This is for your knowledge, right? So now 2 points you need to remember. What is the first point? The first point is it is used to provide the value to Terraform, right? This is the, sorry, to provide the value to the Terraform, you're using list and map. If you are interested to capture some value, if you are interested to capture some value from the Terraform, during runtime, then what you're going to use? You're going to use output variable. This is the first point. And the second point you need to remember here is, see, using output variable, what you can do, you can capture the value, you can store that value, you can return that value, and you can use that value. These are the different things you can do: capture, store, print, return. Return is nothing but print. And you can also use that value in some other blocks. That is also possible, right? See, it is not only to capture, store, and return or print the value on the screen. It is also you can use this value within different blocks. This is one resource block and this is other resource block. Using a output variable in the middle, you capture that output, whatever the information you want using output variable, and you can also use that in other resource blocks using the values between resource blocks. That is also possible. Capture, store, return, and use. This is the advantage of using your output variable. Okay. So any doubts here? What is the use of output variable? If there are no doubts, I can show you how to create all these things. Okay. So see, till now, what we have done, we have created a file known as main.tf. This is our first file. The second file name is variable.tf, right? Now we are going to create a new file known as output.tf. Okay. So this is my third file. What is the syntax for creating your output.tf file? What is the standard syntax? It starts with output and output variable name, any name that you can take, then whatever the description that you wanted to provide, and what is the value that you wanted to capture from the Terraform. Okay, how to capture that I'll show. Just write down it as a value as of now. Output, output variable name, whatever the description you wanted to provide, and what value we wanted to capture, whether you wanted to capture the IP address, public IP, private IP, DNS name, bucket name, whatever the things from different resources that you are creating. Okay, so that value you need to provide. This is the syntax for creating your output.tf file. Okay, so now what we'll do, second, see, this is already we created. 1 second. Yes. This is what we created in our last class. What is there? Provider, source, okay, variable, load, Amazon Linux, Red Hat. 3 things we are creating. Ubuntu, Amazon Linux, Red Hat. Okay. So switch to sudo. Okay, we at variable.tf. Ubuntu Linux. Okay. Instance FT2 method. Okay, fine. So now what I'm doing is copy the same thing here. Variable. Let's open a new notepad. Paste. Don't worry what I'm doing. You already know this. Cat.tf. I just wanted to compare both of these things and show you. Okay, see, this is what we have created in our last class. There is a provider block, and I'm creating 3 different EC2 instances. One is Ubuntu, one is Amazon Linux, and one is Red Hat, right? See, now from where we are getting these values, we are getting these image IDs from these variables. Here, if you see, first one is Ubuntu ID, second one is Amazon Linux ID, and third one is Red Hat, right? And there is another variable for your instance type. So it is capturing those values, or it is pulling the values from your variable block. Correct? Now, what is the third file that I'm going to create? That we are going to create as output.tf file. As you already know, why we use output.tf file? Just to capture some information from the from your resources, whatever you are creating. Now, what I'll do, just come back, output, and okay, output. I'll call it as Ubuntu. I wanted to know the public IP address of this EC2 instance. Okay. See, please understand what I'm doing. I wanted to capture the public IP of this EC2 instance, Ubuntu EC2 instance. Okay. Now I'll call it as whatever the name you wanted to call, Ubuntu IP, right? Then open braces. If you can provide description something. This is public IP. This is not mandatory. Description, then value. See how to get the value. You already know. I think you remember the syntax for interpolation. I explained you once. You might have remembered this. Interpolation. If you wanted to use the values or refer the values within different blocks, what you're going to do? You're going to do something called as interpolation. How to do? Resource type dot resource name dot attribute value. If you remember, I already told you this, right? How to do this here. What is the resource type? AWS instance is my resource type here, right? Just copy paste the same thing here. The resource type. Oh, sorry. Okay, wait. Control C. Resource type. That what is the resource name? My resource name is Ubuntu. Control C. And what I wanted to capture? I wanted to capture public IP address of this machine. Whatever the machine now I'm creating, that machine I wanted to capture, right? So now this is fine. Now my output dot variable is ready. Just Control C, come back to your server, vi output dot tf. Just copy paste the same thing here and save. Okay, I think I missed one part here. One curly braces is missing. No, it is there. Okay. Okay, now Terraform validate. Everything is fine. Terraform apply or Terraform plan. See, it is going to create 3 resources, right? And what it is changes to outputs. Earlier, this was not there. It is printing Ubuntu IP address onto your screen. Okay, so Terraform, just go ahead and apply Terraform apply auto approve. Okay, now see what happens. Once the infrastructure is created using a main.tf file, the output of or the IP address is going to be printed on this screen. If you see, just wait for a second. See, output. And here it is showing the IP address of this particular machine. Whatever highlighted machine is here is there, right? That is the IP address of that machine. Okay. Earlier it was not there. So that is why I am telling you, if you wanted to give some values to the Terraform, then you are going to use list and map. If you want to take out something, now what I'm doing, I'm taking out some values from your Terraform, right? I'm taking some value from your Terraform. If you wanted to take some values out from the Terraform, then you're going to use something called as output variable. This is very important in some cases. Okay, so this is the first thing. Now, even if we can try for other two EC2 instances. Even you can also try this for this EC2 instance. What you just need to do, you just need to copy paste the same thing, change the name, Control C. This is for Ubuntu IP. I'll call it, what is the second one? Amazon IP. Here, AWS instance dot resource type dot resource name. What is my resource name? Is Amazon, right? And I do have a third one. What is the third one? It is my Red Hat. You just need to change the name here. Resource type dot resource name. This name you need to change. Okay. Just Control A, Control C, come back to your server, vi output.tf, right? Just I'll delete all the values here. Insert, paste. Oh. Save, Terraform, play. See, this time it is giving you all the IP addresses of these three machines. Okay. This is what the advantage of using your output variable. Not only your IP address, public IP, private IP, DNS name. If you see here, while creating infrastructure, it is going to capture all this information. Whatever the information you see here, all this information is going to be stored under your state file. I told you what is state file, right? Once the infrastructure is created, the Terraform is going to collect all the information related to that infrastructure. And it will store all this information into a file known as state file, right? So these are all the information it is collecting from your EC2 instances. Okay, if you talk about Red Hat EC2 instances, this is the all the information it is capturing from your AWS and storing it under your state file. Okay, so from that state file, it is taking out these values. It is not taking out from directly from the AWS. It is taking these IP addresses from where? From your state file, not from directly from your AWS. Okay, so this is what this is all about your output variables. Okay, so any doubts here from anyone? Hello, are you guys there? Okay, so now we have completed a list variable, map variable, and other variable as output variable, right? The last one we have something called as local variable. What is this local variable? See, whenever if there are some values, let us assume, where is this value? I'll just use here, just type. Just give me a second. I'm finding for those values. Okay, I'll just create one more resource block here. Otherwise, we will hear it. See here, if you see What are all the different values which are associated to this? We have a value known as AMA ID. We have a value known as instance type. And in the upcoming days, this is the dummy EC2 instance we are creating, right? We are not creating a full-fledged EC2 instance. You cannot log into this EC2 instance because there is no PEM file associated with it. If you see, right? This is a dummy thing we are creating now. But in the coming class, we'll create a full-fledged EC2 instance. Don't worry. But now, here, my point here is, we have different values associated with your EC2 instance or any other infrastructure that you're creating, S3 bucket, CloudWatch, CloudTrail, whatever, right? In those values, there are two things. Some values or constants, or fixed. They'll not change for some period. For example, instance type here is not changing. Here also it is not getting changed, right? In the below example also, in this example also, it is not getting changed, right? See, here there are different values. Out of those values, we have two things. Values which are constant or fixed. Values which keeps changing from time to time. Keep changing, right? So here the context is keep changing from time to time, right? There are two kinds of values. One keeps changing and one remains same. If you feel that these values, what are the values which are getting changed here? Your image ID is getting changed for each and every resource that you're creating here, correct? Your Ubuntu ID is different. Your Amazon Linux ID is different. Your Red Hat ID is different. So whenever you feel the values are changing, then what do you need to use? You need to use your list and map. Okay, whenever you feel the values will remain fixed, here in this case, instance type is fixed for all of your EC2 instances. In that case, what do you want it to use? You can use local variable. Okay, this is the only difference between your, we essentially call these things are a global variables versus local variables. These are global. Okay, so just to give you, see, we have two kinds of variables. One is global variable and other one is local variable. What are global variables? Well, list and map. Okay, these are the values which keeps changing from time to time, but these are the values which are fixed. They are not going to change. And global variables, you can use these values in any of the blocks, different blocks or different files. This is my main.tf. This is my output.tf. This is my variable.tf. You can use this list and map variables in different files. That means that is global. But you can use these local variables only inside one file. You cannot access these values outside of that file. If I'm defining local variables in my main.tf, here I am defining local variables. You cannot access them in variables.tf file. That is the meaning of local to that file. You cannot use those values outside of that file. Okay, so that is the meaning of local values. When to use? Whenever the values will remain fixed. And if you ask me why we are using these local variables, see, whenever you start coding these values, whenever you code, not only in Terraform, in any of the language you try to code, there are two things you need to keep it in mind. First thing is something called as dry. Okay. Second thing is something called as readability. These are the two things you need to keep it in mind. What is dry? Dry is nothing but do not repeat yourself. Do not repeat yourself. What I'm doing here, see, I'm repeating the code multiple times. Resource block 1, resource block 2, resource block 3. I'm repeating. I should not be doing this. See, as of now, I'm repeating. That's fine. Okay. But the standard syntax is you should not repeat yourself. Now, creating for 3 EC2 instance, I'm creating 3 different resource blocks. That means I'm repeating myself with the same code. In the upcoming days, with the help of only one resource block, we are going to create 3 or multiple resources. Okay, now this is just for your example I'm showing you. But in the upcoming days, with the help of one resource block, we can create multiple EC2 instances. Okay, so what is the first thing that you need to remember? Do not repeat yourself, and you should also write a code in such a way it should improve the readability for somebody else. Okay, it should improve readability for somebody else. These are the two things you need to keep it in mind. So in order to improve these concepts, locals are one of the best used variables. Okay, so now let us see how to create these local variables. Okay, see, just to repeat one more time, if the value keeps changing from time to time, then what do you need to use? You need to use something called as list and map variable. And if the values or will not change or the values remains fixed or constant values, then what do you need to use? You need to use something called as local variables. Okay, which helps to improve the try condition and readability. Fine. So let us see how to create a local variables. Just a simple thing. You need to start with locals, then your curly braces, then what you wanted to, let's say, this is my region. Region is US East 1. This is my one value. I wanted to define instance type. Instance type is equal to t2.micro, right? These are my values. This is how you are going to create your local variables inside your main.tf file. Okay, so these are the local variables which are going to be fixed in my program execution. This is not my program, in your script execution. Okay, these are the values which are going to be fixed. See, this value is fixed here. My instance type is also going to be fixed, right? So that is the reason what I'm doing. I'm converting from global variables to local variables here. Okay, so once the value is created, once the local variable is created, now what we have done here, if you see, just a second, I'll show you. This is the one now. See here, I'm just deleting this. Here we have created a variable block, right? Once the variable is created, how you are fetching this value? You are using var dot variable name, right? Wherever you see var dot variable name and the value associated with it. That is how you're fetching the information from variable blocks. If you see here, correct? Now the same thing. I wanted to fetch the value from the local block. So see, please remember, you are not going to create a separate file for your local variables. You're going to keep this inside your main.tf file. Always will keep this in your main.tf file, and that too after your provider block. This is my provider block. After my provider block, I'm going to create this local variables. Clear? Locals, open braces, then region is equal to US-east-1. Then as my instance type, instance-type is equal to t2.micro. See this name. These names are there, right? You can specify any name. This is not a mandatory one. You can write down any name of your wish. Okay. So now I'm done with creating my local variables. So instead of using my variable, what I need to use, I wanted to use my local variable now. Instead of using global variable, now I'm making use of my local variable. So if you want to use that variable, you need to use something called as local dot your variable name, instance hyphen type. Local dot, first what we'll do, we'll create a local variables. Now to refer those values from here to here, what we'll do, local dot your variable name, instance type. Okay, so you can also change the same thing for your different things. Where is this? Variable instance type and instance type. And this one here, local dot, the next thing is, what is that? Region, right? This is how you can refer the values here. Just copy paste the same thing, come back to server. First, let me destroy the infrastructure. Terraform destroy hyphen auto hyphen approve. Just wait for a second. Just a second. Just taking some time. Okay. Now it is destroyed. Vi main.tf. I'll delete all these things from here. Right? I'll insert. What is the shortcut for VI editor to delete? Anyone?
Double D.
Yes. Q. Just save this. Right? Then Terraform validate. Always execute this. Even though you feel that you are comfortable writing Terraform scripts, you might be making some mistakes. Okay. Terraform apply hyphen auto auto hyphen approve. Okay. Now see, it will not show you anything, but you are dividing the logic for creating your EC2 instances. It will create the infrastructure now. Same thing, what we are doing, we are making use of local variables wherever you can reduce the code, right? It improves the readability of the code. If you just see, okay, this is my local variable, that means it is fixed. What are the local variables? My instance type, okay? And I'm having this, okay, this is my local variable. If I just come here, you can able to see those values, right? So these are the four different variables we have in a Terraform. One is list, second one is map, third one is output, fourth one is local. These are the four different variables. We have a four different use cases here, right? List and map are the global variables. And these are the global variables. When to use these variables? If you wanted to provide some value to the Terraform, at that time you need to use list and map. Okay. Now, what is output variable? Output also kind of global, but when to use this output variable? To take out some values from the Terraform, at that time you need to use output variable. What is local? Local is a local variable, right? Why we need to use? If there are some values which are fixed, and if you wanted to improve the principle of do not repeat yourself and readability, then you're going to use something called as local variables. These are the four different things. Okay. So now I think everybody is clear with whatever the concepts we discussed till now, right? See, I'm just adding two more points here. Now, what I'll do, I'll just delete this infrastructure first. Terraform destroy. Just wait for a second. I gave you one assignment, right? On what is the day? On Wednesday or Thursday, I guess. How many of you gone through it? Hmm? I don't think nobody remembers. Okay, no problem. Just go back and read it. CD dot dot. I'm coming one step back. Taint and untaint. Yes. What do you mean by that? It is just nothing but forcibly recreating the resources that I'll discuss. No worries. Okay. Now I'll just create mkdir. Just a dummy folder I'm creating. Mkdir dummy cd dummy. Just to show you some other things here. Vi main.tf. I'll just copy paste one provider block. Control C, Control V, then one resource block. Control C, I wanted to show you some things here, some advanced stuff. Okay, just the image ID. Where is my image ID? Launch instance. See, these image IDs keeps changing from region to region. So you need to be very careful while copying these image IDs. Okay. Oh, where is this mount feature? What I will do? Okay. Var dot instance type as instance. I'll also convert this into. See, I think you already know this. I'm directly doing this. Var dot ami. I'll create two more variables now. So I'll get these values from there. So vi variable dot f. So variable why it is not working? Variable dot f. What happened? Oh, it is not working. Okay. Insert variable. What is my variable name? I already have this. Let's copy paste. I'll just copy entire thing from here. I'm just creating a small thing that we already discussed. I'll remove this things into. I don't want all this stuff here. Okay. PMA ID, instance type. These are my two variables. Let's see. Paste. Okay. Terraform validate. Where is this PMA ID? Okay. VI variable.df. Okay. Insert. I missed comma here. Save. Terraform validate. Provider is not there. Variable unexpected comma after argument missing provider provider. Where is this? Vi name.df. Provider is there, right? Okay. I removed all the things from this, so that's why. US east 1. This is not the main thing for me as of now. Okay. We Terraform validate. Missing required provider. What I meant? Oh, sorry. Yes, sir. Thank you for helping me. Terraform init. Hey, yeah. Very good. Thank you. Okay, Terraform validate. Okay, everything looks fine now. See, what I'm trying to explain here is now we have a variable known as AMI ID or something called as, let us consider this instance type. Instance type is my variable, right? Here, this is my variable. Let's, 1 second. Where is this? This is not the one. This is my variable vi main.tf. Just wait. Control C. See, here is my variable known as instance type, right? And it is referring the value from here. Correct. Now, what I wanted to do here is, if you see, while creating the infrastructure, what I want, if I'm not providing the value, what it will do? First, it will pick the default value from that variable. You already know. If I'm not interested in providing the value, then what happens? This main.tf will pick this default value. Correct? And what is the second scenario? If I wanted to overwrite this value, overwrite. If I wanted to overwrite with this value during runtime, that is during Terraform apply and Terraform plan or Terraform destroy, then how can I do it? Using something called as -var. Variable name is instance type. Instance type is equal to instance value that you need to pass, right? Let us do it. See, now what I'll do, Terraform apply -var instance type, right, is equal to t2.nano. This is my new value time, my instance type. So here, if you see, what is the default value? Default value is T2 micro. Now what I'm doing, I'm overwriting that default value manually or explicitly. I am overwriting that value using -var. I'm passing the value during runtime. I'm overwriting that value. If you just click on enter, see what happens? It will pick this latest value here, right? So that is the other thing. If you wanted to overwrite this value, I'm not going to create the infrastructure. It is already picking that value. Okay. Now using first one as default, you already know. If you're not providing any value, it will pick the default value. If you wanted to provide or explicitly mention the value during the runtime, then how you can do? Using -var variable name is equal to variable value. This is how you're providing. And if there are multiple values that you wanted to override, here if you have multiple, where is this? Here let us assume here you have only two variables. Let us assume you have 10 or 15 variables. Then how you need to provide? You just need to provide -var variable name value, -var variable name value, -var variable name value, right? That is the one way. Or there is a other way, that is, if there are multiple values, see, -var variable name is equal to value is fine. But if there are multiple values that you wanted to override, multiple variables if you wanted to override, then don't you feel it is a complex thing? -var, just like that you need to write, right? So instead of doing that, what you can do is you can store all these values, whichever the values that you wanted to override, we can store all those values into one of the file. You can write a variable name instance type is equal to value. Just AMI ID, I wanted to overwrite with some value. Some all the values you can mention inside a file, and by default, before going to by default, what I'll do, I'll show you other way. First, store all the values, all the overwriting values into file, and store with any name that you want. Now, what I'll call this as some values dot tf. I'll call it as values dot tf. Or see, sorry, I missed some point here. What you need to do here is once the values are stored, what you need to do here is you need to store. You can write down any name, but the extension must be tf vars. Okay. See, please remember what I'm doing. I'm overwriting multiple values. I'll keep all those values into one file, and I'll call that file any name. Name is not a matter. Dot tf vars is the mandatory field here. Okay. So once this is done, Terraform apply, and here you need to provide -var -file is equal to your file name, file dot tf vars. So now instead of providing a single value, what you are doing, you are collecting all the values and keeping it to one file, and that file you are passing here. Okay, any doubts here from anyone till now? First one is default, second one is -var, third one is -var -file if there are multiple values. Next, there are some two other ways. Before going into that, I wanted to clarify these things. Any doubts here? Okay, I don't feel any doubts. Fine. So the fourth method here is, see, in third method, what I'm doing, Terraform apply -var -file, then you need to provide your file name. Yes, exactly fine. I'm not denying that. But don't you see, every time you need to provide this value, what if you forgot this providing the file to while Terraform apply? As a human nature, you might be forgetting, right? You might forget to provide this file during Terraform apply, even though you wanted to override the existing values. That might also happen, right? So instead of providing this file manually, what you can do is you keep all the values into one file. You keep all these values, and while naming this value, what you need to name is, default name is Terraform tf vars. If you name this file as terraform.tf vars, what your Terraform will do, you no need to pass this value or file manually. Your Terraform will automatically pick these values during its Terraform apply and Terraform plan. Clear? See here, you are providing the file manually. Now I don't want it to provide this file manually. I want Terraform to pick these files or pick these values automatically. Automatically, I want it to pick this by Terraform. Then what I need to do? Same file, no difference. Then what I need to do? I need to store that file name with terraform.tf vars. The name must be same. This is by default. Okay. This is by default name. This is the name you need to use. Fine. So the first method is default one. Second one is -var. Third one is -var -file. You need to manually pass the file. If you don't want to pass that file manually, then what you need to do? You need to store that file as terraform.tf vars. What does this terraform.tf vars file contains? It contains the values which you wanted to override the existing variable values. It consists of values which you wanted to override for your variables. Okay, those values. Now here you can ask me one question. Sachin, is it mandatory to use this terraform.tf vars? Yes, it is mandatory. But is there any way that we wanted to store with our own name? Let's say I wanted to store all the values with sachin.tf vars. I wanted to store all the overwriting values into this file, and instead of passing manually, I want Terraform to pick this file automatically. I am not interested in providing this file, but still I wanted to store this file or name this file with my name or some other name. But still I want Terraform to pick this file automatically. Is there any way? Yes, there is a way. What is that way? See, while storing the name, you write down any name. I'll call it as demo. Okay, demo.tf vars. Demo.tf vars. And in the middle, you need to add a keyword known as auto. If you are see, this part is constant. This will not change. This part you can provide any name of your wish. Okay, this is my file. This file consists of all the variables that you want to explicitly change the values. And if you wanted to customize this value and you don't want to provide this file during Terraform apply and plan, I want Terraform to automatically pick this file. Then what I need to do? I need to name it as any name demo.auto.tf vars is mandatory vars. Okay, this is the other way of automatically picking the values. Fine, sir, any doubt here? Did you guys understood what I'm trying to say? Okay, fine. So these are the different things, sir. You need to keep focusing here. See, from now on, what I'm doing here is, see, if you essentially observe here, see, I'm like creating some points in your brain first. Now I'm explaining what is Terraform. I explained what is the other things, other basic things I started explaining. Now I started explaining some other things. Now what I'm doing, I'm creating a connection between each and every concept that we are discussing, right? So that you can able to relate each and everything. And in the upcoming classes, see now here I'm just taking example of an EC2 instance. That is not the only thing. You are going to create S3 buckets, CloudWatch logs, Docker cluster, Kubernetes cluster, all these things that you're going to create using Terraform, right? So in that case, we are also going to create these things. Once we are done with some certain concepts, I need to tell you almost like 10 resources, how to create these 10 resources plus one project. Apart from these resources, I need to tell you the project also. So essentially, see, if I wanted to show you how to wash your utensils in your uh, like in your, what is that, kitchen, right? If you wanted to show you how to wash these utensils, first what I need to do, I wanted to make some food, then I need to eat that food, then I can show you how to wash those utensils, right? Now what I'm doing, I'm preparing this. Once this is done, we'll come back to this part. This is what I'm doing now. Okay, so please do not skip anything. Please follow the order, whatever I'm doing. Okay, and I'll keep adding the some points to the existing content. So I keep adding those content at that point of time so that you can have a clear flow. Whenever somebody asks you, just pick that value and you need to execute. That's it, right? So yeah, uh, yeah, that's it from my end for today. So thank you. See you tomorrow. Okay, tomorrow is very important class. Please do not miss it. Fine, fine, guys. Thank you. See you tomorrow. Bye. Sir, upload fifth and sixth class today. Yeah, yeah, I'll do it, sir. No worries. I'll upload.